When somebody suffer for me, sweet mother. When somebody suffer for me. Stop. Okay, good evening. When you hear music like that, something comes to your mind. It's very clear. Sweet mother. So tonight, you are not just listening to an episode, you are sitting in on a conversation between two African women who have lived this deeply. Parenting in diaspora, culture clash, and awakening. Between us two, we have carried over 6 professional degrees. We've walked through education, nursing, nutrition, civil service, entrepreneurship, and ministries. But beyond all of that, we've carried babies on our hips. We've sent silent prayers on long commute, and we've cried in kitchens far from home trying to figure out how to raise children in systems that don't always understand our hearts. We're mothers, we are daughters, builders, and survivors. We are women who have crossed oceans, physically and spiritually, trying to protect what we love the most. This isn't just a discussion. This is truth telling. This is cultural unpacking. This is healing in real time. So, you are welcome to this conversation. This is for the moment no one prepared us for. Tune in to the latest episode of Power, Black and Woman as we unpack parenting in diaspora, culture clashes, and the quiet awakening of motherhood far from home. This one is for every African woman trying to hold it all together with heart and honor. You save here. Let's talk parenting. Let's talk safeguarding. Let's talk being African woman raising future in a foreign land. So without further ado, a very warm power welcome to my co-hosts, my own sister from another mister, my very own ride or die, the princess herself, the one and only Mrs. Yetunde Onilogo, aka Princess Tade. You are welcome to the studio tonight.
Thank you very much.
So, how was your day between
Oh,
civil service, coaching, ministry, education, and being a wife and a yummy mommy?
yes.
So, thank you for making time to come in tonight.
Thank you for the privilege. I feel honored to be here. So I want to say thank you. It's been a lovely day, but we're here doing life
Awesome.
together. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. So, sis, how do we start this huge topic tonight? This larger than life itself type of topic. Today is the first that we're broaching this subject in this series, really, as we hopefully invite other women to come and share their own experiences with other new mothers
Mm,
in diaspora. So, if you think about this topic, the issue we're dealing with tonight,
mm.
we got women, we got parenting, we got culture. It's a case of chicken before eggs. Which one comes first? Okay, so let's start where we're at. We are African women, mothers in diaspora. So tonight, we're talking about parenting in diaspora,
Mm.
culture clashes, and the quiet awakening of motherhood far from home. Sis, can you start us off on what new mothers in diaspora are saying? What I wish I knew before coming to the diaspora. And considering our own experiences of being mothers spanning over 30 years,
Mm.
in the early days, what can we pass on to other mothers? What will you tell a new African mom who is just arriving to diaspora today? Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Of course, we can't talk about everything this evening, but we can actually mention a few things. And if we go back to when we first came here, and for maybe me personally, we come here and we didn't really have anyone to sort of tell us, what to do, how to go about doing it. And so we had to learn by ourselves, maybe in a funny way, in an interesting way. Um, for example, if you look at the culture that you just mentioned, parenting in African culture is not like here. But however, by God's grace, I think we're able to adapt our parenting to the culture here, because there are some things that we was happening in where we come from, Nigeria in particular, in terms of parenting, especially when it comes to disciplining your child. We know how we were parented. Some of us how maybe for kind of smacking and all that kind of thing, which you cannot just do here. So it's challenging. And what I would say to every new parent coming to the UK is to learn what is the system, how does it work here, ask questions, look around, and don't impose some form of parenting from the African culture on your child, because it could actually lead the person into trouble. And I think the important thing for me and for everyone is to know that parenting is a journey. It's
Mm,
a journey, it's a learning curve. We for driving here, you have to go for lessons in driving for to be able to drive on the road. But how many go for parenting lessons before they even have the child? So the
mm,
child is just brought to the world just like that. Some parents don't even know what to do with their children. They don't have a clue whatsoever. You see, sometimes they feel that okay, because in African culture, if you don't have a child, then you are not, well regarded, especially the woman in particular. And so they just believe that let me just be pooping the popping the children out, and buying them designer wear and all that is parenting. No, parenting is more than that, because parenting is we are building a future. We are raising a future generation. And so we have to do it right. Just like you can't drive on the road without having passed your driving test. The same thing should apply to parenting. You do I tell parents sometimes you need to give it everything. It's a sacrifice. To get your driving lesson, you pay. It's not free, and sometimes the fee is high, but you want to pay because you want to be able to drive on the road. How much more having a life? We are raising a life, a human being. So everything that we have should be invested in that human being. So we came here, for example, if I use myself as an example, I did not I didn't have anybody to help me maybe do a lot of things. Fortunately, I had one sister I met, and she came to my house maybe to bath the baby when the baby was young and all that. But after that, everybody goes. People will come around. After some time, nobody is coming to visit you anymore, so you are left on your own.
oh, mm,
So you are just left now. So then you now think, okay, what do I do in terms of finding the right school? Parenting also involves finding the right school. So it's so broad, because it's spirit, soul, body, the mind of the child. You're thinking about the school the child should go to. They can't just go to any school. Some parents will think, oh, it's convenient. There's a school next door. We have not gone to investigate whether the school is good. You don't know what happens in the school. You just think it's easy. Sometimes you have to travel to get your child to the right school, because we are looking at the future. So we're looking about that at that. And I didn't really have anybody to actually, advise me. But at a point in time, I had to seek help to see, especially when it comes to maybe in school, because in that time, there are very few black children around. So maybe my firstborn was the only black child in the whole school. And so when there were issues, I didn't know what to do. But fortunately, I had a friend who was living in a different part of the country. And I said, this is what's happening, you know. And she said, you know what, you have to fight for your child, and give me tips. So what will I say now? What I'm saying now is that look out, find people that can support you. If there are issues with the school system, speak to people, find a community, get yourself into a community. It's not, you cannot parent in isolation. Just think, this is where we can bring our culture here now. In terms of, in Nigeria, they will say it takes a whole village. It takes a whole village to bring up a child. That was how we were parented. If your child is being naughty, another elderly person can tell that child off. We need to move away from, don't just leave my child alone. And then the child is getting rotten, and nobody is saying anything. So there's a clash, but there must be a compromise in a way, in terms of, this is right for my child. And so if your child is being told of by another person, and you know that that is going to work out for their good, then we need to take it with joy, and to be grateful that they are not leaving your child to just, to just get rotten. You see? So that's the way our culture is good. And so this is where we need to maintain that culture. Another thing that I've noticed in parenting, that recently, is that we are losing the respect. I know we're in a culture whereby we can call anybody by name and all that. This is how it is. It's okay. But if we do research, we'll see that the war became worse when there was no boundary. So our children must be brought up to have boundaries. You see, the African culture of respect, I believe, should not be discarded. I am an advocate for it. Why am I saying that? You see, by the time a child does not respect the people around them, they go to work, and they believe that, well, this is what happens in this culture. They misbehave. But go and do a research of children that have been brought up with the African culture of respect. Everybody that meets them will say, wow, you're so polite. And people sort of are drawn towards them, because they see that that child is different. And so parenting is not just having the child, is having values that the child will live with for the rest of their life. And you find out that every child who is well parented will grow up to be a well-rounded adult, will understand their boundaries, understand the language of respect and
Wow.
discipline as well.
So you're taking this conversation to the advance. you know, but if I may, scale it back down a little bit. So it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes,
That's sure. Because it helps the parents as well.
yes,
Nobody prepares us for
no,
parenting.
no,
So seek help and advice from people who are already here before you, so you
yes,
can learn from their mistakes,
yes,
your own.
yes,
And the point I want us to dwell on, like from what you're saying, the discipline aspect.
mm,
But when you have two culture,
mm,
you know, that is clashing
mm,
or that are clashing, sometimes discipline can be
yes,
criminalized.
yeah,
Whilst we're looking at the pros of African culture,
mm,
we ought to also look at the cons
yes,
of the culture.
yes,
As Africans, we can be heavy-handed
yeah,
with discipline.
yeah,
And as I said, some of us are parented that way and
yeah,
we turn out good.
yeah,
But when you are now in Rome,
mm,
are you going to remain African or Romans?
mm,
So let's look at the balance.
yeah,
How do we, what do we tell new African mothers arriving to diaspora who have been heavily parented with
yeah,
discipline,
yes,
coming to the country with the same mindset,
mm,
parenting their kids the same way they are parented?
mm,
So times and seasons have changed
yes,
even from the
yeah,
day when kids are
yeah,
raised.
yeah,
also adding another double whammy of a different culture.
mm,
When same discipline
mm,
can be analyzed,
mm.
we need to look at that. So let's dwell on that
Okay.
particular aspect
Aspect of
because
the discipline. Okay.
it's a big issue
Mm.
for new coming to diaspora.
Yes.
Things they wish they knew before
Before
coming.
coming. Mm.
So how do we address these things? Because I know you, and I know even though you had a good level of discipline, we did,
Mm.
but if discipline our own kids,
Mm.
surely different to the way we were raised.
Mm.
How do we draw the
Yes.
balance?
Yes. Okay. That's very important. And when I do parenting lessons with parents, what I always tell them is that the first thing you need to give your child is love.
Law.
That is there's no argument about that. There's no debate about that. It's very, very, very important that you are looking at that child with love. You as a parent, we as parents, we are not perfect, and I think sometimes we forget that we were children at one point or the other in our lives, and so sometimes, and I don't want to expand this again because I look at personalities and temperament and all that coming together, and sometimes what parents do is they do comparison, looking at a maybe a friend's child, or maybe they're looking even on social media, and then they think, oh, my child is not doing this, and then before they know it, they are getting angry. There's anger. So we must not parent in anger.
Mm.
Yeah, we must not parent in anger. And if any parent thinks they have anger issues because of the trauma that they've experienced when they were being brought up, then they need to actually get help themselves. So
Sort.
what I would say is that if you're a parent, you're a parent and you find out that you're always getting angry with your child,
Mm.
then that means that there's an issue. You are the one possibly that needs to
Mm.
deal with the issue that you're having first. Because what
Mm.
you are doing is that you are just reacting. I tell parents, don't react, act.
Yeah.
So know your weakness. Know
Mm.
when maybe you are getting angry. If you have to go away from the scene, then go away, go somewhere else. Go and take
Mm.
a deep breath, breathe,
Mm. Mm.
and
You
reflect.
Yeah, you've raised a very important issue in this discipline and criminalization of discipline.
Mm.
Is it just the parent being angry at the child or even being angry at your
Yes,
spouse? Because the
yeah,
truth is this, you're angry at your
yeah.
spouse and to some extent,
Mm.
and this anger is getting out of hand.
Mm.
You could also be angry at a vulnerable
Yes,
person by this.
yes,
So if you are in a position of being a parent, we should put our anger
yeah,
issues on the
yes,
because you never know who is going to be at the receiving end of that anger.
yes.
So anger issues need to be dealt with.
Very correct.
Person anger management
Yeah.
causes because people that we've seen who have got into problem
Mm.
in the from disciplining their kids
Mm.
clearly got anger issue
Mhm.
like raising your hand and slapping your
Mhm.
kid,
Mhm.
your spouse
Mhm.
is domestic violence,
Yes.
it's physical
Yes.
abuse. And let's bring it to some scenarios, examples of people who have actually beaten their own kid.
Mm.
A father who slapped the 14-year-old
Mm.
and this child turned up to school with bruises on her face.
Mm.
So an example like that, what do we tell parents who
Mm.
have tendencies to do things like this or who are already doing this? What's
Mm.
the repercussion? you
Repercussion.
know
Yeah, because it's a criminal. Is they'll get into trouble. Number one, because that is child abuse. And
yeah.
okay, and the child or children in some cases, because if that happens to one child, then the services believe that that child is not safe in the home, and other children that may be in that home as well are not safe. So what will happen is they will take the children away. And where do you know that they are going to take the children to? Which family do you know? You don't know where they're going to be put. They're going to put those children. So it's very important to prevent this from happening. Is to deal with whatever issue that you may have. Sometimes parents are just frustrated because of their own, maybe either lack of purpose or lack of fulfillment. So you deal with yourself first. And am I saying that every child is perfect? I'm not saying every child is perfect. But look, every child has some strengths. So what are the
mm,
strengths that that child has? So which will help you to overlook some offenses and then find other ways of disciplining the child. I know
mm,
one of the things I used to do with one of my children was I would just say, go and write lines. And he now has the most beautiful handwriting in the house. Because I would just say, go and write, I will obey my parents, or I'll be a good boy, or something like that. So I'll just say, go
mm,
and write 20, just go and write. I will just give him a number, just random number. Just go and get a piece of paper and pen and just be writing and
mm.
just
That's
writing. So,
so many ways to discipline a kid
yeah,
without raising.
without raising our hands. We
Take other things away from them,
yeah,
their toys.
yes.
Oh,
I don't know whether I heard it somewhere or I read it in the book. It says that the hand that we use to hold that child in love, let's
mm,
not use that hand to destroy them.
mm.
You know, when we have a baby, we carry the child with with so
You
much
love.
love. Yes, yes, to rock the child. Yes. So that same hand should be used. It should continuously be used to bless them. To love them, to feel, they should know that they are loved. Sometimes
Mm.
when children are actually being unruly, it could just be that the atmosphere in the home is not right. You know.
You know why I'm laughing? Because you've mentioned the word love a few times.
Yes.
Thinking these people who are raising their hands and smacking their kids or leaving bruises and stuff, do they think they are showing love? Like I've heard the expression, that's why I was laughing. Beat the devil out of the child or something like that, or they want to straighten them up, so they're showing love.
Mm,
Well, what can you say about this? Is that really love? Because love sometimes in this context may look like danger,
mm,
you know, to
mm,
other people. You're showing love by putting the child on the straight and narrow.
mm.
Uh, it's a physical
Yeah,
abuse
use your
when you.
hand. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. What's going on?
Are you
Can you hear
on?
me? Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
now.
okay, okay. Yes. Yes. We shouldn't be using our hand to slap our children. We, like I said earlier on, there should be other ways, and so we need to look at the child as in what is going to work. Some parents will say, "Oh, I've tried to do this. The child is not responding. He's still doing that. What else have you tried? Have you tried everything?
Mm,
You try one way once, and it doesn't work, and then you give up and say the best way just to keep on smacking this child, and which is going
mm,
to land that parent in trouble.
in trouble.
So there are other ways, and sometimes um I tell some parents sometimes, I say, just sit down with that child and have a discussion, because sometimes parents don't listen to their children.
Mm,
We don't listen to our children because of, like we said before, the way we are brought up. We give the order, we give the instruction, and so. But here, the way children are brought up is you have a conversation. We don't, African parents, we don't believe in conversation. We believe in just you obey first, and then you complain.
or don't complain at all.
Or don't even complain at all. Don't say a word. I've said it. And then the child is somehow bottling up emotions, bottling up pain. And one day the child could also retaliate,
Mm,
you see. And so we have to think about the future of that child. And many, many parents, we damage the children because of being too heavy handed, too heavy handed, you see. So discipline is good. and discipline is right. But let's discipline the right way. Okay, the right way is considering putting the child at the center, putting the child at the center, putting the child's well-being, yes, the child's well-being, emotional well-being at the center of it all. As in, we want the right outcome and we want a win-win situation. You are, as a parent, I'm happy that okay, I want this child to do this, and the child is doing it, and the child is also happy that they are doing what is right. But
Mm.
when we are disciplining the wrong way, then we are actually making situation worse. And this is when children will go to school and say mom is doing this or dad has done this, and then the authorities come in and then they take the
Yeah.
child, you know.
Mm.
So we need to be very, very
I'm,
careful.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that point, because that's another thing that new parents need to know,
Mm,
that whatever is happening under your roof in your home,
yes,
your child is giving reports or feedback to school.
yes,
So don't think that your secret is safe, because it's not safe.
it's no,
This child is going to school, and there is something they do in school, whether it's on Monday
yes,
or whenever.
yes, right, yes,
Child, oh, what did you do
different,
over the
yes, yes,
what's interesting,
yes,
you know, and whatever your child is
yes,
saying, how you've treated them or not treated them, the teachers are writing it down, they are
yeah,
making notes of it.
yeah, yeah,
You these things, it might be the way you think you're showing love, but they might look like danger
mm-hmm,
to other people
mm,
who are observing and listening to your kid.
mm-hmm,
Another thing you also mentioned is about, when we flip it, if you're not the one that is smacking your kid,
mm,
maybe the other parent
yeah,
who is coping with
yeah,
you in the home, your partner, your husband, or your wife, or your
mm,
spouse, is the one that is inflicting physical abuse or smacking his kid.
mm,
You But you kept quiet.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So we need to talk about this.
mm-hmm,
So these parents come in,
mm-hmm,
so they know
mm-hmm,
what they are doing
yes,
about. So you're not the one that
yeah,
is inflicting physical abuse, keeping quiet.
yeah,
What sort of issue is that going to
yeah.
raise?
But when you are keeping quiet, it's like they said, silence means consent. That's what they say, I believe. So, it's important for couples, for couples in particular, there needs to be an agreement on how to discipline the children. There must be an agreement. Even what I tell some families, all of you sit down together and talk about how things should go in the house. What are your values? What about behavior? Sit down together. So you have a family, it's like a family commitment, so you are in it together. Do you
Mm.
understand now? So this is what we do, and if you don't do this, these are the consequences. The whole family have sat down together. In some cases, some families can even write things down so that it's a reminder to see, okay, this is how we behave in this home. These are the house rules, that we have in this house. But if in the case whereby one person is inflicting, damage on the child, on the minor, then it's very important that the other party speaks up. You can't keep
Okay.
quiet.
So the point here is that sometimes in different culture,
Mm,
maintaining silence
yes.
is kind of cultural. And this cultural silence can be misread
Mm,
as being accomplice,
yes.
or even as a sign of neglect.
Yes.
You're not the one that is perpetrating the issue,
Mm,
but you're seeing it, you're witnessing it, and you're keeping quiet.
yeah.
The woman in this case, if it's the woman that the father is beating the child, and you're the mother, it's like the mother is between the rock and the hard
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
She going to shift to in this instance?
Mm.
You, but we're talking about a minor, a vulnerable person, a child who cannot defend themselves. So, what was the woman's position in this situation?
I think it takes courage because like it's to be prescriptive will be very difficult only because there are different cultures. Some cultures a woman must not even speak up. when her husband is talking.
But we are talking about
Yeah. But
criminalization.
I think what needs to be happening is that there should be a reminder, as into there's a law, okay?
Yes.
There's a law that protects these children from harm, okay?
Mm,
And also the consequences of doing this. There are many parents now, there are many children, I'm sorry to say, who are, in with social services because one parent was not doing what was right by the children, and the other parent did not see anything. So
mm,
it's believed that they are in it together, you know. So what parents that have just come to the continent to know is that there are laws, and so if
the
one
most.
party, is is not cooperating, let them know
Mm,
that look, I will have to report. I
yes,
will,
that's it.
yes, I will have to report that you are doing this. And
Yes.
unfortunately, in many cases, many fathers have been told to leave the house because it's
Mm-hmm.
not safe for them to be in the same house with those children.
Children.
Is that what they want? So
Mm,
women need to speak up, all right?
yes.
Yeah, you need to speak
Good.
up and say, if you continue behaving like this, then I'm very sorry. I will have to alert the authorities.
Absolutely. And that may be the warning that the other person needs.
Yeah.
Help them to help them to stop this bad behavior.
Hmm.
A friend of mine who is also a social worker, we were gisting about this, and there is a case at the moment very similar to what you said. The father has been kept away from the family for 8 months.
Hmm.
So they've removed the children and the woman to a safe
Hmm.
house because they consider that the father is a danger.
Hmm.
The father isn't even smacking the kids,
Hmm.
beating the wife.
Hmm. Hmm.
He is a wife beater.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, this was recorded, and somebody else who had the opportunity to get hold of the recording,
Hmm.
the woman told it to someone, and this was the person who reported this
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm.
violence. And as a result, they've kept the guy, the father, out of the home. So the children are losing out on
Yes.
having a dad
Yes.
at
Yes.
home. Mother is losing out on having a husband in the
Yes.
house, and the breadwinner in
Yes.
this case.
Yes.
There is nothing to gain here.
Oh.
If you think you want to show love, by disciplining your kids with, physically,
Yeah.
it's the wrong move
Yeah.
in diaspora
It is.
or where
Yes.
whatsoever.
Yes.
Unfortunately, these things were acceptable where you're coming from.
Hmm.
Every parent in diaspora needs to know that this is not acceptable behavior.
No.
Because we've also seen parents who have gone to prison.
Yes.
You this UK, so many layers of
Hmm.
complications. I'm sure you've seen cases like that as well, where
Yes. Yes.
and I think the other thing we need to mention is the fact that these parents can lose their own child or children.
Mm-hmm.
You, you think you are trying to protect your children from the society, from certain behavior, from this, from that, you might actually lose your children. And
Because
what you were saying,
they just become hardened, and they don't want to listen anymore because they know the next thing their parents will do in particular. Sorry, it's usually, many times is the man shouting,
father,
yeah,
yes,
and raving, and then they just like, okay, he started again, so let me just leave him, let him continue. And so they now indulge in other things.
mm,
So it's very important, and that's why I will still go back to that love. I love you, or buying them gifts. No, it's the love
mm,
of them knowing your presence, the presence of physically present and also emotionally present, with the children, because that's what they will remember even when they get old. What
mm,
think as parents, I think we need to think about this. And how will my children remember me when they get old? What will they say about me as a parent? So, and I think, like I said before, because there are no parenting lessons before people have children. Um,
You people should go for parenting
I
then.
I I think so.
Marriage.
I think
Nobody, you know, give you a certificate before you go into like that.
I,
Get better and you give
I
your
think so because you just look at the world now, just thinking, oh, this person has no clue whatsoever. Has no
thought.
clue whatsoever, and it's so sad. It's so sad.
Mm,
It's so sad and painful when we think about the damage that has been caused by bad parenting.
yeah.
And I feel sorry. I feel sorry for these children now who are just living with strangers. Because they've
Mm,
been taken from their family. I feel
mm,
sorry for them because they are missing out. We are.
mm.
When they are missing out. Young children. Not with their mom, not with their dad, only because one person was not wise or clever enough
Be
to know what is right and do what is right, or they even knew and they didn't care because some people just don't care.
honest.
They will keep on saying, that's how my father brought me up and that turned out to be good. No, let's leave that. Let's leave that. Because it turned
Mm,
out good does not mean that the father did what was right. No. So
no.
let's shift from that
Yeah.
mindset. And
Yeah.
we are in a
And
different culture now. Let's do what is right.
absolutely. And apart from the fact that these kids can be adding up, but I think the main thing is the losing them
Yes,
in the real sense of losing them
yes,
because these kids are taken away
yes,
from
yes,
parents, foster care homes, and or whatnot.
yes.
And at the end of the day, the child you love so much,
Mm,
the child you want to put on the straight and narrow,
yeah,
is no longer yours
yeah,
because they've taken that child away
yeah,
from you.
yeah.
So I mean, we've seen people whose kids have been in care until age 16,
Mm,
you know, and if the case is very serious, the kids continue to stay in care
yes,
until they are adults
yes,
and able to make their own decision
yes,
whether they want to go back home or
yes,
not.
yes.
You- And this is the realization of being a parent in diaspora. If you're not ready to abide by the rules of the land, one, either don't have kids,
Mm,
two, don't bring your kids to this country, or don't raise your kids in this country.
mm,
Unfortunately, is the reality.
yes,
But if you're already here, why don't you just seek counsel, get anger management if you have anger issue, seek support from other people. And you said something at the beginning. You don't have to parent in isolation,
yes.
and that is the biggest issue. And that's why we're doing this, what we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Yep.
In the early days of being in diaspora, social services were not clued up on what to do with racial family or
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
They do.
Now they do. Yes.
Many African people or ethnic minority in diaspora, there are more issues to deal with.
Mm,
But unfortunately, social services don't have the fund to put your kid in a nice place
mm,
or in any place
mm,
whatsoever. They get passed from pillar to
mm,
post.
mm,
Or
mm,
home
mm,
where nobody cares about what your child is
mm,
doing, really.
mm, mm,
The foster carer cannot discipline your kids. They are not allowed to discipline your kid. You see?
mm,
And we're not talking of smacking. No, I'm talking of simple discipline. Sit
mm,
down there. I don't want to sit down there.
mm,
Type discipline, simple things, instructions. And if your kids say no, they have no right to be harsh,
mm,
to shout,
mm,
or to raise their voice.
mm,
We've seen a lot.
mm.
This across the country, really, not just in one region or the other. What is there, for support.
What I would say is that there'll be women in their community who have parented before and who have not got into trouble, by by misbehaving. So they can ask questions, or maybe they even got into trouble at one point or the other. but they learned. So they
Mm.
can learn from those ones. What did they do wrong at that point in time? And how did they overcome that, so that you don't have to fall into the same error. You don't have to make the same mistake that they made. So I think the first thing is to find a community. Find a community and find people that you can talk to.
True.
You can ask questions that you can be open with. That's very important. And if the person also, maybe where they work, if they have people of color where they work, they can make friends with those people and just ask them, how did you parent your child? What obstacles did you face when you first came, and how did you overcome those obstacles or challenges? So those are just, it's a matter of um looking out. Even if it's you're walking on the street and then you find somebody, and then maybe you become friends eventually. you know Find someone. I'm trying to think now. I know there is a charity, a women charity in the UK, and I know they support a lot of women that have just come into the country. And of course, I'm one of the people that consults for that charity. So there's a community out there. It's just, don't think you can do it all by yourself. That's all I would say. And if you're in a place, some people are in a place whereby there's no black community, not much of black community, then you have to maybe find your friend who lives where there are black community and link up with them, and then talk and ask questions and say, can you please link me up with somebody, so maybe that can mentor me.
Yeah.
This is where
Yeah.
you need to find a mentor in terms of maybe it's a parenting now. you know and it doesn't mean that you're not a good parent. Like when I
Mm.
do parenting class, I always tell them, the first thing I say is, not you're not a bad parent. So it's how to make you a better parent, and to learn some things that you think you knew but you don't know, because
Mm.
you're in a different environment. You may have known it where you are coming from, but here
Mm.
everything works in a different way. you know.
Yeah.
So
Your intention might be good,
yes,
but it can be
yes,
dangerous in people's eyes.
yes, yes.
So as we round up this chat tonight, uh, you know, certainly we have not come to the end of this discussion. This is a pause, and as we're coming back with a few other women roundtable and discussing more about other things, especially examining our culture, what's valid in the culture,
Mm,
and how can actively adopt the culture, not erasing it.
yes.
You know, there are good things about the culture, but when the culture, is pushing the boundary line and, criminalizing, that's when we need to be very, very careful.
Mm,
So, motherhood is never simple. And when you are parenting between cultures, it becomes even more complex.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes, but we are not powerless. We are not broken. We are women who are unlearning, reteaching, reshaping,
mm-hmm,
reimagining love across borders. If this episode touched someone or something in you tonight, go share it. Let a sister know she's not alone.
mm-hmm.
You can us, you can send your voice notes, and you can join us at the next conversation, and follow us on the podcast and other social media platform, so you can get our episodes when we publish them. And of course, if you want to sit on the panel to have a chat to other people, you have experience of your own you want to share, please start speaking up, because this is Bao. We are Black and we're women.
Mm.
Speak truth, we're listening. And I want to say thank you tonight to my co-host. If you have anything else you want to say before we are on the
Yeah.
record.
So thank you very much for this time, and just to say, let's not give up on parenting. Let's not give up as mothers. We are the ones that we rule the world, by the way we bring up our children. We are bringing up future generations, great men, great women. They may not look like it. They may give us, maybe some challenges, but let's keep on loving them. Let's keep on, hoping against hope that they're going to turn out well. And yes, and let's be strong for them. And they see that strength in us. And you may think they're not seeing all the good things we are doing, but let's not give up on our children. Let's keep on doing the right thing for them. No more smacking, no more beating, no more
Let's be
hiding this. Let's just calm down. Let's chill. Be relaxed with them. Take them out. Love them. Yeah, treat them nice. How do you want to be treated if you were that child? And just do it for them. And I'm sure they will come to bless you in future. So
Amen.
it's been lovely being here this evening.
So much. And thank you, everyone, to our listeners. Thank you for listening. And until next time, peace to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.